Welcome once again to the last video of my United States of America vacation trilogy. So this time the third video about the national parks that I visited. And this is probably also the video that I'm most excited about, because the national parks were really the most beautiful thing in the United States. I generally really like nature, and so the sights I got to see in the national parks were just absolutely stunning. So let's begin with Mount Rainier National Park. The national park is surrounding the active volcano Mount Rainier, which is a volcano almost 4,400 meters high and probably the most iconic mountain in the region. Like, take a look at the photo that I've taken from my plane to Denver. I was lucky enough to get one shot of Mount Rainier from Seattle, but that is also the only photo that I was able to take from Seattle of Mount Rainier. But despite being so far away, so Mount Rainier is probably like 50 or 60 kilometers away from Seattle, you can still clearly see this huge volcano just standing there. What I also learned when I was doing that guided tour there is that Mount Rainier is actually one of the most dangerous mountains to climb in the United States, and is therefore also used as some kind of training mountain for climbers wanting to ascend Mount Everest. However, despite the dangers of Mount Rainier, it's still one of the most wonderful mountains that I've ever seen, and the picturesque surrounding landscape is also truly worth visiting. Unfortunately, I was only there for one day. I would have liked to maybe stay there for 1 week, but I mean, I have also had so many other things to see in the States, so I suppose I just gotta go back there someday and maybe spend a week or so discovering the national park of Mount Rainier. And now we are on the way to one of the biggest national parks in the United States, and that is the Great Canyon. Though, I just looked it up, and it's actually just the 11th biggest national park in the United States. But hey, if you ignore Alaska, it is actually the 4th biggest. So let's just ignore Alaska and say that it's the 4th biggest in the States. Though I was still blown away by the greatness of the Grand Canyon, by the beautiful different colors, the vastness of the landscape, the steepness of the actual canyon. When you see such great work of nature, you just realize how small you actually are as a human being. Now, unfortunately, this was also just a day trip, and I couldn't just stop there and like stare at the terrific landscape, but we had to keep going and go to the next side and then the next side, because after all it was still like one of those tourist trips from Las Vegas. But as with every other national park, I'll most certainly someday return to the Great Canyon and bring some more time with me. At the Grand Canyon we also only went to Eagle Point and Guano Point. At Eagle Point you've also got the possibility to go to the skywalk, though I personally wouldn't recommend it, because first of all it's rather expensive to get a ticket to actually step onto the skywalk, and then if you want to take photos, well, you are not allowed to take photos with your own camera, but only allowed to have photos taken of you, and those photos will then cost a good deal of money again, which I think for one pack of photos, or for like 5 photos, you'd pay like $50 if I remember correctly. But I am not 100% sure anymore, to be honest, what the exact price was. But to me it seemed more a bit like a tourist trap. Though at the same time, the whole place is run by indigenous people, so the money at least goes to them, and they are preserving the Grand Canyon, so it will hopefully find some good use there. However, the Grand Canyon is definitely still among my favorite places to visit on Earth, and I enjoyed learning about its history and seeing the Grand Colorado River meandering through the valley. And of course, there's still much more to see, but that will be the story of another day. Now we'll go to the Hoover Dam, which we also visited on our way back to Las Vegas. Well, and for anyone who doesn't know the Hoover Dam is a huge concrete dam in the Black Canyon of the Colorado River, and it's also rather close to Las Vegas, and in my opinion definitely worth a visit. It's a huge and amazing structure that's been built by, well, guess who? Humans. Though for me it doesn't even get close to any of the natural beauties that are surrounding Las Vegas. Well, and we'll get straight into the next national park, the next natural beauty, and a national park that I definitely consider even more beautiful than the Grand Canyon. Let's now discover Zion National Park. The Zion National Park is located in southwestern Utah, and I absolutely enjoyed wading through the narrows of Virgin River's North Fork. Zion has even got Wall Street, but to be honest, I'm not even sure whether we've actually been to Wall Street, because I think we might have taken the wrong turn. By the way, I'm talking in the first person plural because I got to meet a nice guy from the Netherlands with whom I hiked through Zion for the day. And the next day we both visited the Death Valley and the Red Canyon, sharing the costs for a rented vehicle, but more on that later. First, some more about Zion, and I especially want to emphasize the fact that I did not have enough time to take a look at everything and go every hike, because that's not something you can do in a day. Though at least this time it was not a guided tour, but instead a bus took us to the Zion National Park, and then at the Zion National Park you've got the opportunity to take Zion Park bus shuttles that will take you to specific locations from where you can go hiking, sightseeing, or whatever you'd like to do. And well, as with any other national park, I could have probably stayed there for days. There are so many hikes you can go to, so many beautiful places you can visit, and I believe that even after having discovered like the most famous spots, you'd still be finding more and more to marvel at. Oh yes, I will return is one of those thoughts that I had when hiking through the river there. However, for now I can at least be grateful that I was able to make that trip, and that I met that many people from all over the world, and of course from America, in these national parks. And I'm happy to look back at those video clips that are conjuring up my memories of the wonderful moments I spent there at Zion National Park. And now to the last part of this video, my last bigger trip in the United States, going to the hottest and deepest place on Earth, in the Death Valley National Park. Though before we got to the Death Valley National Park, we actually also stopped at the Red Rock Canyon and had a look at that beautiful park. When driving from Las Vegas to the Death Valley, it's actually a nice stop to just stop by the Red Canyon National Park and also have a look at it. Though I'm actually not 100% sure whether it's actually a national park. One more thing before we actually get to the real Death Valley National Park. The drive there to the national park, to the Death Valley National Park, was in my opinion also really beautiful. Especially, I think, because we used a car to get there, and the United States is just way better when you've actually got a car. Even if it's just a rented car, spending your vacation in the United States with a car is probably 1 billion times better than without one. And next time when I get to the States, I'll make sure to rent a car. Are we already there? I always asked as a child. And after, I think about 2 hours drive, we finally arrived at the Death Valley. And first thing that you do is you step out of the car and you realize that it's rather warm. And it was indeed rather warm that day. It was 48 degrees hot. You can't actually stay outside of your car for that long because it's, well, that hot. And it was also rather windy, but the wind was also really hot, as you can expect with 48 degrees. And then when we arrived at that ocean of salt, it was still hot. Surprise, surprise. But hey, I even recorded a video there That's probably the only time I recorded a video where I talked a bit and tried to do some commentary. So here you go. God. Feels like the water's boiling. Now I got sand all over my hand. Salt actually. Salt. Wonder how long the camera will operate here in this extreme heat. 48 degrees Celsius. That's quite hot, isn't it? Anyway, can I find myself a little bit? Maybe like that. I can't even really see myself. What? Oh, my hand is still full of sand. Yay! Filming myself in the desert. In the hottest, lowest, driest place on earth. That's the Death Valley. And this is probably pretty much the only video that I'm gonna take this entire holiday. Look how gorgeous it is. Well, but that's already pretty much it. There are also some scenic drives that we took, but I can't really say a lot about them except that they were absolutely wonderful. Though there's also one more spot that I'd like to mention, which is called Dante's View, and it gives you a really great overview of that Valley of Death stretching out in front of you. And you've got truly that beautiful view during the day, but at night I've seen, well, on the internet, you'll be able to see so many stars that you can't really see anywhere else because of all the light pollution. I haven't seen the sky myself, but someday I'd really like to return to Death Valley and see the night sky there, because it's said to be one of the country's least polluted night skies. Well, that next trip to the United States, whenever it may be, I hope to see those lands again and rejoice in its beauty. Thank you, dear viewer, for watching this video and accompanying me on my journey through the national parks.